3.
There you go. Now I'm on mute. So welcome everyone. It's awesome to have you guys here. Just really quick before we get started, a couple logistics things. Please try to stay muted, and you could even keep your video off if you prefer that during the majority of the briefing. Just a quick, easy way to talk when you guys want to. If you guys stay muted, you can hold the spacebar down, and then while the spacebar is down, you can talk. So later on, kind of how we're going to work today, we're going to give you a quick briefing, go through some slides, then we're going to break off into some breakout rooms, go over some scenarios, and then we'll kind of gather back together at the end. We'll share some of our experiences. We'll go through a quick Q&A, and we'll leave you guys with our contact information after that. Okay. So before I hand it over, I just want to say thank you to the people that are involved. Harold, Randy, Tristan, Craig, you guys have been absolutely amazing. You guys have done so much good work, and I hope this webinar goes really good and leads to some successes in the future. So now I'm going to hand it over to Craig to introduce our BCL team and kind of give you a rundown of what's happening.
Thank you, Logan. Can you hear me okay, Logan?
Yep, I can hear you great.
Great. Welcome, everyone, to this webinar conference call. I'm excited to see what we're doing here with the energy of Logan, kind of helping lead the charge. Thank you for Logan for being the start-off hitter. And here we go. As you know, with CCL, we are laser focused on creating a livable world. And we've got a big challenge ahead of us to restore our climate. We need Congress to act. We need to put a price on carbon. And right now we have the Energy Innovation and Carbon Abatement Act in Congress, HR763. Having businesses on board to support that has already been very helpful to get so many co-sponsors and to show more support for them, as they are our heroes to already show that they are supporting and pushing for our bill. When I first asked Logan, why are you doing this? And I'm the conservative caucus leader in the state, but he says, I know we need to have conservatives on board. And so I was thrilled that he knew that a way to get conservatives on board is through business, and that it's a very nonpartisan place in our country, that people, they want customers, whether they're on the right or the left. And so I'm thrilled to have Logan jumping in here. I'm going to turn it over to Randy in just a moment, who is expanding the influence of BCL, which is Business Climate Leaders, which he'll explain, which is one of the largest and oldest action teams within CCL. Harold Hedelman helped found it, and we're glad to have their support. They're up in the Bay Area, where they've had a lot of success, which you'll hear about. But we've seen success down here in Southern California, where endorsements from many businesses have helped, and then other businesses coming on board, like Hoag Hospital, has been so influential that when we go meet with a member of Congress, I'll just take a moment here. If anybody has background noise, if you can mute yourself, that helps just to keep the background noise down. Welcome to the call. We're up to 41 people on this call, and we're welcoming them. Some are across the country, and some are right here in Southern California. And so at the end, we'll be talking about action steps and going forward, and how we can expand our efforts in our local chapters and in our regions. I'm particularly focused on helping Republican-centered districts get on board, as we need more co-sponsors from them. So just know that not only is your district important, but as you have more bandwidth to help, we'll reach out and get businesses on board from other districts that can help us bring people on the right side of the political spectrum on board too. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Randy and Harold to take us through this delightful seminar that will actually get some very practical experience and tools. It might be like trying to drink off a fire hose, so put on your crash helmet and be ready, but lots of good stuff, and just know that the resources are online and we can look at them. And then I'll talk at the end with Logan about some things we'd like you to consider doing. And we're going to shoot to be done in an hour. And so, Randy, here we are at 5:05. Over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Craig. And Logan, can everybody hear me? Thumbs up, Logan. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Really excited to be here and excited to have all of you with us. So, Harold, are you there?
I'm here.
All right, Harold, my
Hey.
partner in crime. So welcome everybody to Business Climate Leaders. What we're going to do is kind of walk you through who we are and what we do, why business is important. Craig and Logan touched on it a little bit. We'll go a little deeper. How we at BCL, Business Climate Leaders, work and how we engage with business, how you can get involved. And then we're actually going to go, so you don't have to listen to us the whole time, actually do an exercise where we'll actually, you'll go into breakout rooms and actually have an experience of engaging with the corporate leader in your area. Whoops. What is Business Climate Leaders? So BCL, we are an action team of Citizens Climate Lobby, like the Conservative Caucus. We are part of the Grass Tops Outreach Lever. And our mission is really to support CCL volunteers to effectively engage with businesses, small and large businesses in your local area and across the country. And our focus is really, it's great to get a company to come in and endorse HR763, but we want a long-term, rich relationship with the company so that we can work with them on carbon pricing and whatever is next. Harold?
Thank you, Randy. Good introduction. So why do we engage business leaders? It might seem self-obvious, but we engage them because members of Congress need to hear from business leaders. If they're going to support the bill, they need to be sure that back in their community that the business constituency in their districts, in their state, are not going to go up in arms and have a business yellow vest revolution if they support a price on carbon. So, and over the years, members of Congress have literally told us and told CCL volunteers everywhere that they need to hear the voice of business if they're going to support the bill. So that's why we engage business leaders. Our bill will put money in the pockets of their customers. In a lot of cases, any consumer-facing business is going to have customers with more money to spend because of the bill. So they like that. And the REMI study shows that indeed that's what happens. So that's why we engage them. And we think in many cases, there are other benefits for businesses to support us, but we engage them because they actually have something to win by supporting this bill. Thanks, Randy.
Do you see this, Harold, the picture with Jim Hansen on it?
Jim Hansen. How many of you, well, you don't have to raise your hands, or you could raise your hands if you know who Jim Hansen is. Anyways, the first really good scientist to testify before Congress about the potential crisis of the warming atmosphere. NOAA scientist, he led NASA Ames, I forget what the NASA Institute on Space Sciences or something like that, for many years. Finally quit when he got a lot of heat from the administration that he was serving under at the time, maybe the last 5 years.
Harold, I don't see the screen you're thinking of. Randy, is there a sharing button you need to push?
Can everybody see the screen? And
yeah, it's there.
No.
Yes, it's there.
okay, so just
Anyway,
I think if
one
you
of our
can't see
heroes.
it, Craig, if you look on the like in your bar on the bottom and click on the Zoom icon,
I see
you'll be
it.
able to screen share. Okay.
Got
Jim
it, thank
Hansen,
you.
as Harold outlined,
Nice.
who he is, one of the godfathers of CCL, and it was him. He said that if it's the captains of industry who can get us through the climate crisis. I met with them. They have children and grandchildren and want to be part of the solution. So in terms of why Congress people listen to businesses, of course, they provide jobs. They're job creators in the community. They're community leaders, have credibility on economic issues. They're problem solvers. How can we have a problem, we will find ways to get it, to solve it. And they already have existing relationships with members of Congress. They are in members of Congress often, quite often, talking about the things that are important to their business and things that they would like Congress people to do. And of course, you go where the money is. And it's businesses that have a very strong influence on our members of Congress in terms of their contributions to their campaigns. Harold, do you want to talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, so you might wonder, well, why aren't businesses already involved? And the answer on the slide, of course, is, well, because nobody asked them to. That's part of the answer. And the other part of the answer is that just like politicians, they kind of need a jailbreak to happen before they start joining. And so part of our work is finding the leaders, the people who are sort of ready to lead that jailbreak. The figures here talk about the general population, about their willingness to get engaged on climate. 43% of voters say that the reason they're not engaged is that nobody asked them to. And that translates to business leaders as well. So your job in talking to business leaders is to A, to ask them, and B, to say, hey, we can help you do it. And as we will discuss later on, we have a number of things that businesses can do. And not all of them talk to members of Congress all the time, and you may be giving them a good reason to do it for the first time.
So in terms of how BCL works, there's two main channels that we engage with companies. One is our national sector teams, which I'll show you a list of, really focused on Fortune 500 companies, multinationals, wherever they are within the US. And then secondly, our local GO teams, Grass Tops outreach teams. So working with chapters locally, as Craig was talking about. So trying to develop that in Southern California, and maybe wherever you are from on this call, but working with your local chapters, developing a team, and going out and talking to small and medium-sized companies in your area. And then we have a steering committee that Harold and I are both a part of, our management team, which meets every Monday to help kind of coordinate and grow our engagement with business. Here's a list of kind of 13 key sectors that we operate in, everything from agriculture to transportation. In terms of SoCal, we were talking to someone down there about starting to focus on the entertainment and media industry. But these are some of the key areas that we have teams and focus on. I just kind of want to walk through a few different examples of successes we've had that from CCLers, but where BCL has been involved in the process. In the brewing sector, mostly small, medium-sized brewers. There's over 6,000 throughout the US now. And there's actually a caucus, a very large caucus in the House and Senate, where over half the members of the House and Senate are part of and trying to support brewers. And we've had an initiative for the last little over a year now. We now have 200, almost 200 breweries that have endorsed this declaration, which supports the Energy Innovation Act. So a way to pull together, as Harold said, kind of a jailbreak, a way to get some critical mass in the industry, which makes it easier for the next person to say, yeah, that's something I'll support if I see everybody else in my industry doing that. Harold, do you want to talk about a bigger company?
Sure. At the other end of a microbrewery is a multinational corporation like Unilever. We reached out to them maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And at first, I have to say it was kind of shocking. Their government affairs people didn't really think that Unilever was ready to put climate as a priority for Unilever. And they didn't understand about carbon taxes being a good solution. And so we spent some time educating them a little bit about that. Just like sometimes you have to educate a member of Congress, recognizing that they, especially a Republican member of Congress, probably didn't run for office to deal with climate change, right? So you have to educate them about this a little bit, and it takes time. We did that with Unilever, and after several months, we finally got to the point where they said, okay, this is something we can support, and we're going to work with you and talk to some members of Congress. And you tell us who you want to talk to. We set up some meetings, and they talked to both of the senators in Tennessee, where Unilever has the world's largest ice cream factory. And I don't know whether they served them ice cream at that meeting or not, but they went to the meeting.
Thanks, Harold. So small companies, big companies, and also trade groups. So whereas we've gotten a small brewery, a number of breweries to sign up and support the Energy Innovation Act from just an email, this is the case of working with the trade association, the Silicon Valley Leadership Group, has been a couple years in the making. Silicon Valley leadership, as the name suggests, is mostly tech companies, but there's also a number of kind of innovative companies that see themselves as key innovators that are involved. But over the course of a couple of years, we actually got the trade group to support. And in this case, it was a letter of support. So basically them saying, we really like the Energy Innovation Act. Our concern, though, is we want to make sure that it jives with the California cap and trade. So they didn't give just a full exclusive endorsement, but they give, essentially it is a full endorsement, but just wanting to make sure that local here in California regulations still are effective. So, and then from that overall trade group, we're now talking to a number of the individual companies about actually them stepping up and engaging in lobbying and advocating with us. So it's a long-term relationship that started and is still growing. Harold?
Success stories. At a much more local level, we try and engage big companies that have local facilities. And in this case, we worked with the Boise, Idaho chapter of CCL, who wanted to have a meeting with the Republican member of Congress, Mike Simpson, who at that point had been completely silent on the need to do anything about climate. It may actually have been fair to characterize him at that point as a denier, Idaho being a fairly conservative state. So we recruited a number of local businesses, which include local facility manager for Hewlett Packard, somebody from, actually a plant manager. Cliff Bar has a bakery there in Idaho, not exactly in Boise, but they came down. And we also had members of Happy Family Brands, a medium-sized company, at that meeting. Those local businesses, which included those three companies that I mentioned, met with Mike Simpson and told him about the bill. That was the first meeting they'd been able to get. Just having business leaders asking for a meeting helps you get a meeting with the member of Congress themselves. So this really helped them. They hadn't been able to meet with him before that. And it didn't happen overnight, but he eventually came out with a rather interesting statement. He said, "It's my party too, and if I want to fight climate change, I'm going to do it." And he did that at a meeting with another group, a trout group. I guess he was very concerned about fishing and salmon and that kind of stuff. So it took a while, but he eventually came around. We can't claim, that we were the only ones working on him, but it worked.
So what are we asking for? So we talked about endorsements of carbon fee and dividend and our specific bill, HR763. That's a great one. But not all companies are ready, willing, or able to get there. So what is actually even more potent is an actual meeting with a congressperson, for them to do it privately, to say, hey, climate's important to us. We see it as an impact and a concern for our business. These are the things that we're doing on the sustainability side of our business, but we also need action from you and from Congress. And ideally, something like carbon pricing in HR 763, I think, is a really nice model. So to be able to express support to Congress people directly. To join CCL, we've also brought people in, as I think you'll hear from, which would be a great idea that Craig's keen to promote for you guys in coming June meetings, to actually bring in people, business people that support what we're doing and support action on climate to the meetings that we have with our members of Congress. They can educate their employees. They can agree to bring us in or do it themselves, to write articles in their blogs and corporate communications, and to introduce us to their network, the networks of people that they know and work with in their industry or other people they know in the community. And introduce us to their trade organizations as well. We can talk to the trade organization, but it's even more powerful if it's coming from a member. And I'll actually show you, and we'll send to you a list of all of the other different things that that companies can do as well, and that we can ask for. So, but those are some of the key things that we ask for.
One interesting thing I'll point out before we move on, we are more and more often pointing out to companies that although there's no fee for joining Business Climate Leaders or CCL, that we would welcome their financial support. And one result of that late last year was that the National Ski Areas Association, out of the blue, called us up and said, you know, this is really good news. We're going to make a donation to Business Climate Leaders and Citizens Climate Lobby. And that was completely unexpected and very helpful. So
Very welcome.
it never hurts to mention that. A lot of companies actually expect that you're there to ask them for money. So you don't have to ask them for money, but you can say it would be appreciated.
Think of someplace else that's not
And they
too
can
far
support
away.
your chapter activities, or they can
Right.
support Business Climate Leaders or CCL or any combination of the above. It's up to them.
So keys to success for us, and we'll kind of zip through to get to our exercise. To work in teams, you know, we're not alone, and we're here as BCL to support you. So if you're in a chapter and you're the only one working on a company, we're happy to join you like this virtually or on a phone call. Be engaged. Make it personable and credible. It's about finding common ground, as Craig will talk in terms of connecting with conservatives. Use your personal networks. Use and people in your chapter that know people, and really focused again on building long-term relationships. So kind of going through what you can do in terms of the first steps, how you actually start to get engaged. And these are things that you can look at now, even when we're staying at home. Figuring out who has the most impact on your member of Congress. You can look at who their donors are, who are the largest employers in your district, who are the people that are alumni from their universities, et cetera, that you think would have a great starting point. And start to put together that target list. Start to research that. Look online. Look on the company's sites and their sustainability and climate policies that they're doing. Figure out who you know. Who do you know on LinkedIn? Who do you know? Who does the chapter know? Family, friends, people you went to school with, whatever the case may be. People you work with, people that you know. And you can start working on an email. I'll show you in a minute different email samples that we have that you can use, but you can get people's email address. If you're not familiar with Rocket Reach, it's a great, you go to rocketreach.com, a great tool that you can actually use to get people's email addresses. Sometimes on company websites, they'll have ways to contact people, and LinkedIn is a good way to connect with people as well. And then you're off. It may take a while. That's the last point, to be patient, persistent, and of course, CCL wise, polite, very polite in our approach. But eventually, you know, over time, sometimes it may take a year, sometimes it may take, you know, just a day that somebody reads your email and it feels like the right time for them and they're ready to meet. So if you go to bclresources.org, which is our internal kind of training and resources site, you'll see here how to engage with companies. And if you go down from how to engage with companies to contact, you'll actually see a whole folder of sample emails that you can use, you know, to get you started when you're starting to look at crafting something to send to somebody. And again, we're always here to help. So moving on to all of us getting engaged. So we're going to actually move into breakout sessions, and everybody gets to be part of a live role play of meeting with the business leaders like we do as CCL with our members of Congress. The idea being to get you familiar and start talking and just kind of demystify the process of actually talking to a business leader if that's something that is of concern to you. So we're going to break into groups of 4, and I'll kind of walk through the different roles that we'll take on, create a plan, and then actually do a meeting, and we'll have time after that to talk about it and reflect on that and see what worked and what didn't work. So as with meeting with a member of Congress, there's different roles that we'll take on. So if you'll be in a group of 4 people. So one person will volunteer to be the business leader, and we'll give you scenarios, and it'll give you a background on that business and the connection that you have with that. Somebody will be the lead. So that's typically the person that has the contact or sets up the call, but sometimes it may be different. Sometimes there may be somebody, you may be meeting with a beverage company, and there's somebody in that part of the meeting that knows that industry well or has some connection to that person. An appreciator, somebody to appreciate something about that business and keep track of time and we want to be respectful and ask up front how much time they have. Somebody who's actually doing the ask and taking notes. And when you're actually doing a meeting, it may not be quite so structured as this, but you want to have a good sense of that these bases are being covered. Okay. And then there'll be 5 different scenarios, and I'll give this to you in chat in just a moment. But you'll see here a list of the different scenarios. There's 5 different scenarios: an aerospace company, a brewer, a local restaurant or coffee shop, a seafood grower, seafood farm, and a trucking and logistics company. So there's 5. So you'll choose one of those 5 scenarios. And I've also included here the list of different roles, just in case you forget that. Okay. So I'm gonna, while we're talking about this, I'm gonna, in chat, I'm gonna put the link to this document and ask that you copy and paste that and pull that document up.
Just put it in there for you, Randy.
Oh, thank you. So Logan, you'll see it there, everybody. So it seems like on Zoom, you can't just click on that link anymore. You have to cut and paste that. So hopefully it'll work out that each group, at least if some of you can't get it, that at least within each group, there will be one person that will have this document. Okay.
I think we're going, isn't it true, Randy? We're going to assign the scenarios to to the breakout room. So each breakout room will know which scenario it's taking. Otherwise, if we let them choose.
Right. So what I'd like you to do is we're going to end up, we've got 42 people on the call right now. So we're going to break into, I think, 11 groups. Or maybe I think I'll do 10 groups and then put one person in another group. But so you'll each have a group, a breakout room number. So breakout room number, do scenario 1. Breakout room number 1, do scenario 1. Breakout room number 2, do scenario 2. Breakout room 6, do scenario 1. Breakout room 7, do scenario 2. Okay? So there'll be 2 groups doing each scenario. Does that make sense? Hope so.
Hey, Randy, I just wonder before we get started, just to warm us up real quick, what's a great kind of opening line when you've done these meetings in terms of, you know, really relating how a carbon pricing bill impacts their business?
You know, we start these meetings just like we start a meeting with a member of Congress. First, thank you. We thank them for giving us some of their time. And just like we do with a member of Congress, we appreciate them for something. We have to look it up. They might be a climate denier. They might, but they've probably done something that you can find out. And that's part of your task, is to do that research before you have the meeting. And so those are the 2 best ways to start. And then, of course, how much of your time do we have today? The same as with a member of Congress. So a lot of this will be familiar to you if you've done these things in DC with either the November or the June lobby days. So that's the best way to start, really. And the ask, we always go on to the ask, make sure they understand why we're there. And that'll make it easy for them, because they got to figure that out at some point. And so if you tell them ahead of time, you know, you've gotten over that.
Can I do one quick note before we get started?
Mm-hmm.
Once the scenarios are done playing through, if you guys could just pick one person inside of each group to kind of be the designated speaker. So when we come back and rejoin, we want to try to give each group about, you know, a quick 30 seconds to a minute or so, just to kind of share a quick thing that you learned, as, you know, time permitting, obviously.
Thank you, Logan. So with that, we're going to give this a try. And if you have less than 4 people in your group, just go ahead and make it work with the people that you have there. And we'll be bouncing in and out of rooms just to help you out. So you're going to use the first part, a little bit less than 10 minutes, to assign your roles. Just read through your scenario, figure out a kind of an overview strategy of kind of what you see in that industry, areas you want to focus on, how you can position CCL, and think about open-ended questions to ask, and then go ahead and start your meeting. So
a moment.
Yeah. Oh, we lost you, James. Go ahead.
If I'm not familiar with how this works, because I haven't been in any separate rooms on a Zoom yet,
Mm-hmm.
and also you had asked to have this link cut and paste, where? Is that going to be on our screen automatically, or?
Have you been able to cut and paste it and pull it up on your screen right now?
What, you want me to turn the Zoom off and go to Google?
No, if you just hit escape, your Zoom should be smaller. It shouldn't take up your whole screen.
Oh, okay.
And then you can just go to Google and you'll still be on Zoom. You won't leave Zoom.
Okay, all right.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, this is all new for us, so we're working with it too. So,
And me, yeah, thanks.
yeah, thank you for that question.
And Randy, there was also a request to share the other actions on the screen, share that link that you quickly scrolled through real quick.
Other asks?
The other asks, the different types of things that you could ask for. I think that might help as we do the role playing.
Okay. Here we go. But when we go in the breakout rooms, I don't know if you'll be able to see this screen or not. Well, I'm not sure about that.
No, we won't be able to see the main screen. We'll have our own group. And for any of you guys concerned about the breakout rooms, I know a lot of you probably haven't done it yet. It's pretty simple. You guys, as the guest, won't have to do anything. The host will split you up in the breakout rooms. Once the time's running out, the host will then send another request for you to join the main meeting. So you guys won't have to worry about.
Actually, to amend that, Logan, actually, when I break you out, you will have a little button appear on your screen that says to join a breakout room. You need to actually click that button to go into the breakout room. Okay?
Yeah, no kidnapping allowed.
Yeah, so let's give it a try, and we'll help you along. I think I'll be able to aid you if you can't get into a room or there's problems, okay?
But Randy, what I'm talking about, there was some kind of document you showed with red lines about all the different types of things that they could endorse.
Yeah, I guess I don't want to confuse things too much right now. If you on the screen right now is a list of 5 different asks, and I will definitely send that information to you, but I don't want to get us too complicated right now. So with that, if you will, I want to put you in breakout rooms, and we'll go in and out. I'm going to jump in and out of rooms, and we'll answer questions as you have them. And I think you should be able to still chat. So, all right, fingers crossed, everybody. I guess I have to stop sharing. What's going on?
Oh, Randy, you might want to take people off mute first.
Okay. Can you do that, Craig?
Yeah, at the bottom of the screen, they'll be able to do it once they get into the groups too.
Yeah, I was able to unmute myself already.
Okay, they're all unmuted.
All right.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, Randy,
so-
co-host me.
Room 3.
So Randy, I'm floating.
Yeah, I created the wrong room, so there were 2 bigger rooms. I need to redo this. I'm sorry, everybody. For those of you that can hear me, I created too many, not enough rooms, so I'm going to try this again.
One second, let's see what happens.
Okay, my bad here. My rooms were too big.
You know, and when I try to go to the internet to look up that link that was in the chat box, it takes me out of the.
Okay, well, hopefully somebody has Hopefully somebody in your group has it. I'm sorry about that. That was my bad. I created not enough rooms here. We're going to give this another try. So
Okay, here we go.
so click on your buttons to go in your rooms.
Right that.
Helen, Tom, Daniela, can you click on the button to get into the room? I'm not sure if you're still there, Helen or Tony Hayes or Daniela. You just have to click on the button to get into the room. Hey, Ron. Hey, Ron. Do you want to join? Are you here for the presentation?
Yeah, I'm sorry to be late. I had
Okay,
another
I'm going to
meeting.
assign you to. I'm going to assign you to a room now. Okay, they're just doing exercise now. So there's going to be a button for you to click on.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
So okay. Sadiqa, did you just come? Do you want to go into a room? We're doing an exercise now. Can you hear me?
Okay. Okay.
I'm going to assign you to a room. They're working on a example of how to present to a company.
Right.
Here you go. You're going to have to push on the button that says join the room.
Thank you very much. We decided that we wanted to close the safety of our employees. We're doing enough business, but that wasn't.
You guys doing okay? Any questions?
I think we're just finishing reading the description of the company.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We're
30 to 60 seconds when we're done with all this.
Right. So you could do that.
Everybody doing okay here? Just wanted to check on you.
We're just, none of us can see the document, so we're just winging it and making it up as we go. We're about to start playing.
Oh, well, what's number 2? We're group number 2. What is our business?
Shall I read it to you? Yeah.
Yes, only number 2.
Let me read it. Let me pull it up here. Where did it go? I've lost it too. You guys keep talking. I'll pull it up.
Okay. Well, I'll be lead. Is there an appreciator?
I'll be appreciator and timer.
Okay.
Okay, ready? I'll read it to you. Group 2, Sisters Brewing. The company leader, Jan Dureau, founder and president, family owned, 85 employees, a regional craft brewer sourcing organic ingredients. Struggling with overhead from new bottling facility, but trying to implement sustainable practices. On the BCL side, the delegate, the person who set up the meeting, served with Jan, the owner of the brewery, on a local nonprofit working on watershed restoration.
Okay, so that'll be me then. Okay.
That make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I just wanted to briefly introduce.
Taker, we have an asker.
You guys all doing okay?
Yeah.
Yes, we're just trying to remember what the other role is. We have appreciator, asker, the note taker.
The lead.
Yeah, I think, Steve, would you be the lead? And then.
Yeah, sure.
Or is that John?
I'm
are you the lead?
I'm a liaison.
Yes, we can bounce ideas and strategies back and forth, and then we'll role play it at the end. Should we do that?
I just want to check in on you. Everybody doing okay?
Doing fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good. Great to hear.
So do you want to do that? Maybe we'll all just discuss ideas that how that this.
Yes. Yes, we are all volunteers.
Just want to check that you guys are doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, working out the kinks.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I applaud your service.
Hey.
And we're working to get Congress to pass legislation on climate. Specifically, we're asking them to pass legislation that puts a fee on carbon fuels and passes the net revenue on to American households in the form.
3 minutes, no,
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Okay.
Everybody doing okay?
We're doing good, Randy.
Fantastic.
We're doing our
Thank
meeting.
you.
Yep. So thank you, Jan, for that. And
Also, do one of you want to be a leader?
Just want to check to make sure you guys are all okay.
We're working out our roles.
So you got everything. Okay, fantastic.
Question.
Yeah.
Regarding the asker, maybe I missed this during the meeting. Is that someone who just applies continuous questions throughout the process?
No, that's the person who's doing the what do you want the company to do at the end. You know, we'd love for you to sign the endorsement to endorse our, or would you be willing to meet with us next time we have a meeting with Congressman so and so?
Okay.
To get some information, because I'm not too sure. Oh, hey, Randy.
You guys okay? Just two of you?
Yeah, the third person we're supposed to have decided not to join it. So
okay, are you okay with working with two, or else I'll come join you?
Yeah, we're good. We're
Okay.
working through it right now.
Fantastic, thank you.
So I know.
I think as if I'm thinking about my role, I will say, maybe briefly, well, who we are and that we have a bill in Congress now that we'd love to share with them, but that might come later in the meeting.
The only thing they have in small soup is they don't have any of the other soup small. So we'd have to get it. We'd have to share it. Well, no, they have egg flour soup, large soup. They have hot and sour soup, which I don't like. Sizzling rice soup, which is chicken breast, shrimp, pork, bok choy, carrots, zucchini, mushrooms, and sugar snap peas. And then the seafood tofu soup.
Reach is
Right.
a compliance thing, basically saying that you're not going to use any very nasty
Bad chemicals or things like that. It's
that,
similar to
that cause
Rojas.
birth defects and stuff like that.
Just want to make sure you guys are starting your meeting now.
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you.
Your new plant are definitely going to be impacted by the costs and also the use of those fuels. So if you were more,
the nice things about it is it gives a dividend dividend check to everybody in a household on a monthly basis, and that's based on collection of money for a price on carbon. What we believe the bill will do will
impact on seafood and the like.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the impact is of that? And then maybe another open-ended question on,
just want to make sure
asking-
you're starting your meeting soon.
Okay.
Okay, how much more time do we have?
I think we'll go
In our
another
group?
5 minutes or so.
5 minutes. Okay, yeah, we're
so
going to
make it a short meeting.
Okay.
Sounds good. Okay, great.
Thanks, guys.
All right, why don't we just start trailblazing through it because we don't have too much time. Is that good?
Sure.
We could maybe work again together to be able to come up with some defined ideas on how the bill affects things directly related to you. And then from there, perhaps maybe we could give a presentation and be able to incorporate some of those things into that. And you could bring in some.
They can't grow crops, so they can't grow crops, they're forced to go elsewhere. So, it's more, I understand as a business leader, you're concerned about the effects on your business, but the effects on your business, as I've pointed out, I think can be both positive and negative. And I think it's important to consider the larger picture.
Representative.
And Pete?
Yes.
I'd recommend you try to get to an open-ended question.
Okay.
Uh,
Got
You
it.
guys are doing your meeting now, right?
Yep.
Great.
Yes.
We'll call you back in a couple minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Benefit in economic output. So I don't think that the HR763 that we are supporting will have in any way a negative effect on
more about what can be done, and we can perhaps assist if you would like to speak to your member of Congress about
bit.
I do have a question since you're on the line.
Yeah.
So in these situations that we're practicing, what are ways that you've seen, I guess, help get that first meeting set up with someone? So in the past, for a meeting of Congress members, we would have a liaison, right? That would interact with that person, they form that relationship, and then they bring it up and are able to have a meeting with them. But from a business perspective, unless I'm asking my own CEO, I don't know how I would get that relationship with another business leader to then start these conversations and set up these meetings.
Can I answer that, Logan?
You surely
Since I'm
can.
here. Hi there, this is Randy.
Hi.
We find that if you look at a company, if it's a larger company, if they have a sustainability department or a government relations department, usually both those people, particularly on the sustainability side, they're open to talking. They're obviously concerned about this issue, and they're open to kind of different ways to look at solutions. So if it's a smaller company, it's typically a CEO or an owner, and it's just a matter of ideally finding some personal connection to them. And if not, then I just send them a blind email and say, hey, this is what I'm interested in. And you try enough times, you try enough companies, you'll get people interested.
Okay.
Hey, Randy,
I'm going to close things up soon in a minute,
yeah,
Logan. Okay.
that's what I was going to ask you real quick. So are we going to skip the sharing part since we're...
No, I think we'll do a little bit of sharing. Yeah, we're running a little bit late.
We'll just ask for volunteers.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Now in the main session.
Welcome back, everybody. How did that go? Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Just told me I was muted, so
Yeah. Thanks, James.
So I got elected to present our findings, and who I'm presenting to our CCL group. Is that what I'm doing?
Just to all of us here, just give us 30 seconds of what worked, what didn't work, what questions you had.
Well, the short duration, we had 10 minutes, and we treated it like it was, a brief introduction, and we accomplished making the connection. We accomplished a very brief outline of the bill and why we're here, and then Jeff redirected us to finding out what his business connections were related to climate change with the brewing company that we were dealing with. We discussed the change in availability and taste of hops, for example, and how we could work together going forward, mainly without getting too deep into the bill and to the details, because the time was so limited.
Great. Thanks, James. Appreciate that. So welcome back, everybody. Again, a big kudos and appreciation from us for you guys putting up with this or diving into it. It's definitely new for all of us to do the breakout group, so appreciate you really contributing. So we're running a little short on time here, but what I would propose is I'm just going to take a couple minutes just to get feedback from a few people, then going to have Craig and Logan wrap things up, and then I'm happy to stick around afterwards, after our hour, and answer any questions people have or concerns or issues or whatever else came up. And of course, this is just 1 hour block that we have, and we're here, and we'll give you our contact information. So happy to do it outside of this. So maybe if I...
Oh, sorry, Randy. Wanted to say one thing before we go to the next questions. Right now, given the virus and the pandemic, you may get the feeling that it's tone deaf to talk about climate right now. And I would say don't actually go there. Don't feel like you're bothering somebody by being tone deaf, because the lessons we're learning from the pandemic are extremely applicable to fighting for the climate. It's just a longer term emergency. And if we've learned one thing, is that you don't want to delay dealing with emergencies. There's a lot of other similarities that people can talk about, but the main thing is don't be afraid to make the connections and draw the connections between the pandemic and the need to act on climate.
Thank you.
Just last week, and it's not futile. Last week we had 2 Fortune 1000 companies endorse. We just got a conversation today with a Fortune 50 company. It's really, maybe they have more time now because they're working from home. But in any case, don't be afraid.
Who are the companies that just endorsed?
DSM, North America. DSM is a very forward-thinking former coal mining company. They don't do that anymore. They've really made the shift. And the other company is Hannon Armstrong, a very well-known green infrastructure investing company.
And Harold, another thing that I think to tie in with this pandemic, a lot of business leaders, they look at a bill like ours and they think of it in terms of how it's going to negatively impact their business. But I think it's important that, business leaders are constantly having to deal with things that negatively impact business. And this pandemic is one of them. So, any business, in order to be successful, has to deal with things that negatively impact their business.
Thank you.
And you can say the worst kind of thing is impacts that you don't know are coming. And in this case, with the carbon tax, it gives you some surety and certainty about how things are going to unfold. Anyway, sorry.
No, I appreciate that. And that's a great framework in terms of, even though business is a little wonky right now, but you can still get out there and be engaged. So just a quick, in terms of follow-up, after you had your meeting, of course, you want to follow up, send that person a very gracious thank you for their time, send the information that you guys talked about that you promised to send them on the bill or whatever that may be, and find ways to stay in touch, find ways to keep them updated on what CCL is doing, as well as new developments in their industry or in climate. So encourage you all to join the BCL Action Team. If you're not members already, just go to Community, look for Business Climate Leaders, and you can click the Join button here. And then you'll see a bunch of resources here, which I'll put that slide up later, and contact information for Harold and I. So, but I'd like to pass it on to Logan.
Yeah, real quick, I have one question from the chat from earlier on. It was from James Ferguson. If you want to expand on the question more, you can. But he asked, who do you usually reach out to in a company? He says most large companies now have a sustainability VP or office, but they don't always.
Happy to take that. Sustainability, if it's a bigger company, definitely the sustainability department is the easiest way in, because they're sensitive or concerned about this issue. Also, government relations is another area. And obviously, the higher up you can get in a company, the better. So if you happen to know the CEO or CFO, and if you can, even if it's just a matter of getting an introduction for them to introduce you to somebody else. If it's a smaller company that doesn't have that infrastructure or sustainability or government relations, then usually it is the owner or CEO, or somebody that you find, maybe even production, that has environmental interests. So,
great, James. Does that satisfy your question?
Yeah, that is good enough to get a start on.
It's important to go into these meetings with two expectations. One is you're going to have a good time. Go in there with a smile on your face because you're talking to a business leader who could really make a lot of difference for you, and they've given you some time. So you want to go in there and be happy and friendly. Second thing is go in with the expectations you're building a relationship, not that you're asking them to sign a piece of paper and do an endorsement. You want a relationship so that you can get to the right person and they can make the decisions, and you can educate them over whatever period of time it takes. And after we get a bill and we go on to some other climate solution at CCL, they'll be there. That relationship will still be there, and you can just carry on.
All right, perfect. I have another question for you here. It says,
I think we need to move on, Logan.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and finish up, Logan, and then we'll take questions after.
Okay,
Anybody
yeah,
who wants
sounds
to stick
good.
around.
All right. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up here. So the goal to take from this meeting is we wanna help businesses become advocates for HR763. Specifically, we'd like to gain some advocates before we do our lobbying in June. But obviously, timelines are different for different people, but ideally that's what we would love to do. The trick isn't to try to go out and get the biggest business or get a heavy conservative business to change their minds right away. You're not going to go to a gas station right off the bat and try to get them to advocate for climate action, right? The trick is just keep it small from the start. Identify some businesses that you can have a conversation with. Start with businesses that you frequent, that you've kind of got to know the staff around. Talk to business owners you might know, or try to reach out to businesses that are already doing eco-friendly stuff. And if none of those are a real option for you, ask around. Ask your friends, ask your family, ask some other chapter members, and ask them to introduce you to some of these business owners or managers, and just kind of get that conversation starting. The most daunting task, the most fearful task is just starting it. I promise you, I've done so much speaking, so many meetings. Once the ball gets rolling, it's much easier as you go. So start small, gain some confidence first, okay? So we'll move on to the next slide. Again, the people who put this together, absolutely amazing job. Thank you to all of you guys, Craig, Tristan, Randy, Harold. It's been amazing. I think this webinar went great. I learned a lot for myself, and I hope everyone else did too. And then I'm just going to pass it off over to Craig for the last slide, just to give us the last few wrap-up notes.
Great. Thank you, Logan. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. We're going to finish close to the hour here, and then as Randy said, we'll stay on longer for extended conversation. But just in a minute, I want to say that this has been powerful across the country of having endorsements, and we already have a lot of endorsements. So I recommend that if you've caught the bug here a little bit of how we can help get our bill passed by getting more business endorsements, please go to the Grass Top Engagement Action Team site on our community CCL site and look at the endorsements. Actually, I rephrased that. First, you'd go to the bill. It's the energyinnovationact.org, and look under supporters, and there's a map there for the endorser map, and you can go right to your district and see who's already endorsed. Because June 16, 17, 18, the liaison for your member of Congress is going to be looking for building a team. And what we'd like you to do is reach out to that liaison and say, hey, I went to this call. I want to be a liaison to businesses in BCL and what we're calling a GO team, a grass top outreach team. And that how can I help you build a really powerful team for our June meeting? I'm sure they won't say no when you say, if I bring an influential business leader to the meeting, would you be willing to let them in? They'd love that. They can only have 6 or 7 people in the meeting. But if you bring a business leader, one that's already endorsed or a new endorser, they'd love to have your help. So that's our focus for getting us going for the June meetings. But there's going to be lobby meetings throughout the rest of the year. And depending on how it goes, we want these businesses on board to endorse and have a relationship, as Harold said, that we could help them. I like when I go lobby also that we go there to help, to offer help to Congress and to bring experts. We bring experts from science and from the university system, but we can bring experts from the business sector too and be a resource to them. And even what we can do in these meetings is offer help to these businesses to say, we've looked at your website, we see what you're already doing for sustainability, and thank you for that. Would you like some suggestions of what else you could add to your website? And I don't think they'd say no to that. They would welcome these suggestions.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. I'm signing off. Bye.
All right. Thank you, Murray. Bye-bye. So we're going to just encourage you to look out for an email that's coming from Logan to invite you to 2 other calls as we continue to build our base here in Southern California, and encourage you then to let your group leader know that you'd like to be a liaison, and they can pick somebody or multiples that would come to these calls to help us build a presence here in Southern California as we all have successes at this. Logan, what else did I miss?
I think you covered it all. Perfect wrap up. The contact information for our 3 main CCL people from this meeting, and then me, and then all 3 of us will be main people in that SoCal Go team. So if you have any more questions specific to this presentation or the Go team, please feel free to email us. You can take a screenshot of the screen if you need to, or jot it down. But unless Harold, Randy, Tristan, or Craig have anything else to add, I think we'll wrap up right here. If you guys want to log off, perfect. We're going to do some Q&A now, and I'm going to try to go through the questions I've missed in the chat, get them back up to the surface. So if you had one you asked earlier and it hasn't been answered yet, we'll try to get that done now, okay?
While you're looking at the questions to talk about, Logan, I'm going to throw out one unexpected benefit to anybody who engages works on engaging businesses the way we've been talking about. In that process of building relationships, you actually are going to end up becoming that business leader's climate expert, or one of the sources of expert climate knowledge. It's kind of a fun position to be in within your community. Suddenly, you're developing a relationship with another community leader because they're a business leader, and over time, they're going to be comfortable looking to you and talking to you about other things that are happening on climate besides the bill. And that's a great place to be in, because you're a conduit to more information than probably they already have.
And I would be happy to send out an email to everybody with some of the links that were on the presentation, so I can put that together as well. I wanted to know, I'm a business owner. If I wanted to become a business climate leader or endorse it, would I get some kind of logo I could put on my website or some way to promote that?
That's a great question. I guess we should put that on our agenda, huh, Randy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be a good thing to add. I never thought about that.
Thank you. Let's put that on. I'll write it down for our next
Logan,
steering committee call.
James's question about.
Yep.
Could you share that one? That's a good one, because a lot of people feel that hurdle to get over.
Yeah, about who to ask, who to reach out to.
And also, he was saying, would a business talk to somebody who doesn't necessarily have a lot of business background?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I hadn't reached that one yet. So yeah, I just had a couple questions.
So that's as if, meaning the CCLer doesn't have a lot of business experience or any business experience. And the answer is absolutely. You're still, we go in there, well, a couple things. One is we go in as a team generally, so you can bring some other people with you. You don't have to feel like you're doing it on your own. Secondly, is we don't need to be experts on these businesses and on their industry. Our expertise is around, our bill and around carbon fee and dividend, around CCL as an organization, around, the impact on the effectiveness of carbon pricing, those aspects. The more you know about that, the more you're educating these business people and something that 99% of them don't know, that we know a lot more than they do. Even executives who, even on the sustainability side, very few of them know of the bill. They generally know about carbon pricing, but they may not know much about dividends. And in most cases, almost every case, they have very little background information and support information that they can use in educating their colleagues.
Yeah, I can speak from experience, not specifically to CCL, but in my job when I was in the Army, I worked Intel. So obviously I didn't make leadership decisions, but I was a valuable resource within the leadership's pockets. So you're not there to make decisions for them. You're there to give them all the information they need for them to make decisions. So yeah, you don't need to know their industry. You just got to help them get the information that they want to know and that they need to know.
Well said.
We got a raised hand with Elizabeth Fenner.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Liz.
Hi, guys. I feel like there's a real opportunity coming up during the district meetings. And yes, our conference is going to happen in June, and we are going to have district meetings. And as you know, business leaders in those meetings could be really effective. So how are you, or can you, or can we engage the people who are creating the meetings? I guess it would be liaisons, right? To make sure that especially key districts are having industry presence in those meetings. And how can I help you do that?
I'd like to jump in there that I think if we're offering help to liaisons, they'll be more likely to accept it. And we offer this idea of we're going to put some energy into reaching out to their current endorsers or to new endorsers and work with them and see who they suggest. They might even be able to look through the notes of prior meetings and see when we've met with a member of Congress, we ask them, who influences you? Who would you like to hear from? Who would you like to see us get as endorsers? And they might say certain mayors, certain business leaders, certain chambers of commerce. And so those can be some key people. So to partner with the liaison, but to say, can we have the potential of bringing in one or two business leaders to this meeting? I think they'll say yes. They might not be able to guarantee it because they got to prioritize constituents and their most effective people. But to have a business leader, Bill Blancato, a CCLer back east, just mentioned a few days ago that he was at a meeting. There was a business leader there, and it became the highlight of the meeting because the member of Congress was so paying attention to what that business leader said. Mm-hmm. So it's a really powerful thing.
Yeah. And for the place to start is with the possibility that someone in your district is already endorsed. Might be a microbrewery, might be a winery. I mean, I don't know. But if there is somebody who's endorsed in your district, give them the opportunity to take the next step. In addition to signing that piece of paper, invite them to this meeting.
Are you helping coordinate any of that?
No.
Would you be willing to help coordinate on any of that? Because I know California coordinators are talking now about how those meetings get set up, and it's just it's a heavy lift.
Well, I think getting the dates for the meetings, that's going to have to fall on the liaisons that are working with those members of Congresses. We certainly don't have those relationships. What we might be able to help with is larger businesses that have endorsed that have facilities in particular districts. So, for example, Hewlett Packard.
So, have you separated out your endorsements versus via district?
No, But if you came to us and said, "Oh, Hewlett Packard has a facility in our district," then
If I bring you a chapter, if a member from every chapter, could you guys work with that every member of the chapter to get that information going?
well, let's talk offline. I'm not exactly sure.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Let's do that.
We'll try our best.
I'll say, Elizabeth, I'll say that I reached out to Todd Elvins before this call to see what resources are already there, so we don't have to recreate the wheel. And the Grasstops Engagement Action Team has a he first said to go to the EnergyInnovationAct.org website, and there's an endorsement map, and that can be by district to show who's already endorsed for that district. So I think that would be the first place for people to go, and then reach out to the liaison and say, you know, can we reach out to these people and see if they'll come to the meeting and try to recruit some volunteers in the district that maybe even helped. The engagement tracker would even say who worked on getting that endorsement. And so then that person could call back and say, hey, we see that you endorsed. We thank you for working with us. Would you be willing to come to this meeting?
Super.
Yeah.
So I see. You guys are going to bring us the people. You're going to bring us the businesses, and we need to, on this level, we need to make sure that they get in on the meetings. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I think
I would rephrase it that they're bringing the tools. They're bringing the tools and the know-how. Harold?
Yeah, no, I think Greg's got it right. We just don't have the bandwidth to engage businesses in every district. We can help local Go teams engage, and through webinars like this and support materials. And we're always available for phone calls and things like that, but we can't go everywhere. So if you have businesses and they're showing up in the endorsement map, Craig slated out, find out who, go to the Grasstops engagement tracker, find out who the person that engaged that business is, and we'll have to work it backwards. But you're going to email them and say, hey, we'd love to invite them to a meeting, and that you'll probably get a good response, and you'll be able to carry it out at the local level.
And then a warning of caution, we need to then train them what our focus is so that they don't take over the meeting.
Right. Just like planning any meeting.
Yeah.
So, sorry, are you, did that answer your question, Elizabeth?
Yes, thank you. I'm getting a better sense. I get a little wiggly though when anybody uses the word you. So you've got, when it says you have to do this, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm already overwhelmed. But we'll figure it out. I just want to make sure that we can get this all done.
Right. Well, as you know, our hope is, that we're starting this in SoCal, and so Logan hopes to be a point of contact, me too, and we're going to try to keep moving it forward and create some structure. And really, I have to blame Elizabeth for this idea, because she's the one that told me about business climate leaders.
Okay.
Thank you. That was really great.
So I want to get this.
I'd like to give it, Logan, if I can just give a shout out to the Orange County North Central chapter, because that is where Logan got involved and Tristan got involved, and Virginia Bernal was on the line, and at least 3 other people were on this line from that chapter. And so, Virginia, I see you're still on the line now. A shout out to you as group leader. Thank you for promoting business climate leaders.
Can I say a word? Can you hear
Yes.
me? Okay. Well, I'm a group leader and a liaison as well. And as a liaison, I've been getting messages about getting the group leader involved, which is me too, but in getting a lobby team. So this is very good. And as far as finding these businesses, that's our job, the chapter's job. And that's why I value so much this webinar, because the idea is getting more of our members educated so they can be empowered to create this contact, these relationships. We have done a little bit in our chapter, but we certainly need to do much, much more. So thank you very much.
And you had a big event at a brew house.
Yes, we have not followed through and gotten endorsement from that particular one, but we do have, I think we have 2 brewers that have endorsed, so that's great.
Great.
So I have a question that was asked here earlier in the chat. I just want to get it, try to get an answer before we wrap up or anything. But it was by Joseph Di Nicola. I don't want to mispronounce that. And he can expand on it more if he'd like, but he asked, has there been any outreach to the U.S. Climate Action Partnership? I'm not exactly sure what that is off the top of my head. Maybe you guys will.
Logan, this is Joe, and you did get my name right.
Awesome.
I don't know how many of you are familiar with US CAP, but I don't believe it's still active, but there were a number of very large corporations advocating for cap and trade in 2008, 9, 10. And I would think those organizations, most of which still exist, would be good candidates for supporting legislation such as this. And I just don't know if anyone has made an effort to identify people who were involved 10 years ago and see if they would be interested in shifting their focus to this legislation as opposed to the cap and trade from 10 years ago.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I think I'm pretty sure that organization has morphed into the CEO Dialogue. If you search for CEO Dialogue, which is now a group, I think, of 13 or 15 Fortune 100 companies, and they have come out in support of carbon pricing, not specifically our bill, but I got a question recently about them and talked to Ben Pendergast in DC, and DC has contact with that organization. And so CCL as a organization is in communication with them if they are indeed the same organization.
So it's CEO Dialogue?
CEO Dialogue, exactly. If you look at
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for bringing it up.
All right, I don't have any more questions from the chat. I might have missed any, but at this point, we can kind of do just kind of a I wouldn't say a free-for-all because I don't want to get disorganized, but yeah, if you have a question, please just unmute yourself and ask away.
I was just typing on the chat, but because we were talking about whether we would get endorsing businesses to try and come to the June meeting. And since it's going to be a virtual meeting in June, we thought this would be an opportunity to bring in all our chapters. It's a pretty large district, kind of rural, that we don't see each other very often, but people could participate from all around the district. And if I had people coming from all around the district, then I wouldn't want to have my endorsing business there, because if I get the endorsing business, the meeting's got to be all about the endorsing business. That would be such a important thing to have. So I would try and get another meeting that would be specifically about the endorsing business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good thought.
Yeah, I know in my experience, we had, I'm here, my district is SU in south of San Francisco, and we had an executive from Hewlett Packard came along to our meeting, and it wasn't about him. He understood the situation. We briefed him beforehand. We had, actions, things that we wanted to talk to the Congresswoman about, and he just took, we just said, we'd like you to talk for a minute or two about what you're doing about sustainability and why climate's important to you and why you think carbon pricing is important. So it was pretty short, but it was powerful. So there's different ways, but obviously you can judge that, but it doesn't necessarily have to take up the whole meeting, but it can in a good way.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not super experienced yet with all this. I'm still learning myself, but I think it's not necessarily for the June meeting. I don't think the priority is necessarily to try to get the businesses to talk to our representatives yet. I think it's to go into that meeting where we can confidently say that we have new businesses and here they are that are supporting it. And then I think you can schedule actual meetings following. But if the businesses do want to speak during that June lobbying, obviously we don't want to like shut them down either, though.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think if you're going to have way too many people for a meeting because you have a lot of chapters in a particular district, then you might have to have a second meeting. But if you don't have that many chapters in a district, then fine. Bring a business person if at all possible.
Steve, can you share some of your comments that you made on the chat? And we had a great breakout with Steve. He's ready.
Oh, well, what I was putting on the chat was sort of the same thing that was just saying, that what we had sort of just decided to try and make the meeting in June more of a town hall if our congressman office will support that. And if it's sort of a town hall, well, I just think if I could get the endorsing business, that would be something that I wouldn't want to dilute with the town hall. So that's what I was thinking. I would try and get a separate meeting.
And if you have multiple businesses, you can do a business roundtable. And we've done that successfully in Virginia, actually, just south of DC. And I forget what chapter that was. But in any case, it worked out really well. That number of surprisingly large businesses came. I forget whether the member of Congress showed up or not, or a staffer. But in any case, that's a great way to get a bunch of business voices in front of a member of Congress. And you'll have a lot of fun reaching out to get all those people in the same room at the same time. And it's hugely powerful. That type of a meeting is what really propelled creation of the Climate Solutions Caucus. Before that, we had the Gibson resolution, and the meeting with it was in South Florida, and we had Jay Butera went down there, got a bunch of businesses, chambers of commerce, mayors, all signing a letter to the head of the Republican delegation. She said, well, that's nice. They signed this letter, but if we can have a meeting then and discuss this, then we'll see a little bit more about whether I want to support the Gibson's resolution. So Jay had to go back and organize this meeting, and he did. They had the meeting, and this woman who had been kind of a denier to that point flipped after that meeting, because she was in the room with all these members of Congress, the Chambers of Commerce, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, et cetera. It changed her mind. So it really does work if you can get them in front of the member of Congress.
Yeah. And Steve, you were saying which group was endorsing the bill? Was it the National Ski Association, like you said in our meeting? Or are you making that up?
No, National Ski Area Association did endorse the bill, and has done a great job of getting ski areas around the country to also endorse the bill as individual resorts. So if you happen to be from a chapter that has ski areas, they may have already endorsed.
That's pretty cool.
And if they haven't endorsed, you can say, look at all these ski areas, that have endorsed. So
yeah, no, that it's always great to have a way in to the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly here in SoCal, Craig, you could probably speak to us. We have a lot of solar companies that are have endorsed and helped us with other work like Community Choice Energy.
Oh, we're just trying to get we have a brewery declaration, we have a winery declaration, and we're just working on one for solar companies. So.
Oh, great. Keep us posted, because we have some good active members that run, business.
Okay. I'm putting in my notes, connect you with that team.